So hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about if you the viewer should go to the Silverstone Grand Prix in the future. And we are going to talk about four aspects with this. We are going to talk about transportation, not hospitality, but like getting into the circuit, then walking around the circuit, and what they have around the circuit to do when there is no racing. And we're going to talk about the seats and the actual racing around there. So we're going to obviously start with transport. So I went from Oxford, because that's where I was living in the UK then, and what I did was, because I was thinking, trying to find a good and easy way to get there without looking at the Silverstone website and saying what they recommended. And it was quite hard because you had to do a ton of stops, and it wasn't fully sure if you're actually going to get there, because it took like 3 hours if you wanted to get there but changed. But then if you look on the Silverstone website, they had not a partnership deal, but Megabus, which is, I heard, is a bus company in England. They have regular bus services in England, and they were doing these bus services from Oxford and other cities around England, such as London. I believe they had also Leeds and Luton and Basingstoke, but they had more. They had a ton of buses, and there we got to go early in the morning before, I don't fully remember. I believe it was like around 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock. And then from there we went to the city center, or I should say the main train station of Oxford, and we took the bus there, a double-decker, the Oxford Tube, if you have seen. I'm gonna put the picture up now for you who don't know how a double-decker looks or how the Oxford Tube bus looks. And I would say that the seats were actually quite comfortable, but you didn't have, like, what's it called, you couldn't book any seats, or you could book that you were going with the bus, but you couldn't book where you wanted to sit in a bus. So it was just sitting anywhere where there was space, which was sort of expected. And then the bus was actually quite good, but it was also very fun, because something with double-decker buses, I don't know if it's to do with weight or anything, but their springs are super soft. So the front, when you go, it felt, if I was joking, it was porpoising, but it was going, and then when braking it was bouncing a ton, and when accelerating and shifting the gears you could feel the bus moving a ton, which was really fun. And then the bus ride took, I believe, roughly an hour, but for Saturday and Sunday it took much longer due to queues, because everyone wanted to go there. But fortunately there were a lot of nice cars going past us, so we could see them. And I heard that maybe a Bugatti went past us, but I didn't see any, and I don't have any pictures. That's just what I heard. And then after they parked the bus, you walk to the gate where you enter, and we entered roughly by Woodcut in gate 16 maybe, I'm not sure. Whilst if you have parking or anything, with car, I think it's close to there where you park, or in other spots, but there was also parking within, close to the food courts, but I'll get to the food later on. So when we were going to the gates, there were a ton of queues, because, as I said before, there were a ton of buses there, but there was no hassle. You just stood in the queue and waited, and then they obviously had security there, police dogs also checking the bags to see if you don't have any sharp things. Then they scanned your QR code on your ticket, and then you're in. So it was quite a smooth ride, except that on the Saturday they wanted us to go around somewhere and go to a gate further up. But then what we did, me and the person with me and other people, we just went past there and then basically went further up in the queue. I don't remember fully why they did that, but it was a little bit confusing, but yeah. And then when going there to the actual around the circuit, it was quite nice, because I remember on the first day, because if you book, there are certain tickets they have. You have the like most expensive hospitality tickets, where you're obviously in the hospitality on the Hamilton Strait. Then you have certain places where if you book tickets, you get those spaces guaranteed for all of those 3 days. Then you have tickets where you have a guaranteed spot on the Sunday, but then the Friday and Saturday you can go into any grandstand you want, except the ones which are for 3 days. Like you book them for 3 days and you get the spot there, and you could sit basically anywhere. And then there were the general admission tickets where you took your own chair and things and just sat there and watched the racing. But I remember we walked around the circuit. I have a video showing you my view a bit from Stowe Corner, where you can see F3 cars, I believe it was, coming past through on the straight. But the general admission tickets, I would say, you have quite good spots, because there's a ton of green grass. Well, the grass is green, but you had a ton of open space for you to sit and do basically whatever you wanted within reason. And you could also, by walking, there were a ton of spots, and with the general admission ticket you could sort of sit wherever you wanted with the grass, which was quite fun. So I find that a good thing. But there's one little problem, because on the map I mean, of the circuit, they don't show which grandstands have what's called cover on them, only when you try and book a ticket. And what I mean by cover is that certain places have, like Stowe, have nothing, so it's just seats. Whilst if you look at where I sat on the Sunday at the Village, you had cover. So if it rained or was like 30 plus degrees Celsius, you would have, without cover, a nightmare. And I had to get the ticket to a roof, not just because it was nice and things, because I easily get headaches from sun. I remember once I was in Barcelona and I didn't wear a cap and I got like a migraine. But so I recommend, when booking, remembering which places have covers for the other days when you don't have a seat, and or permanent a seat to sit in. And yeah, you have to just remember that if it's very important for you. But I thought the view was quite nice from all of the spots. I remember I sat on the Friday, I sat in Club, I believe it was the last section of corners. You could see a ton. It was very clear. And then also on the Saturday we sat in Woodcut, and you could clearly see the cars coming all the way from, where was it, from after the first straight, after the Village and the loop, that first straight, you could see all of that. You could see the squiggly corner sort of. I put up the name, I will put up a map, and I will sort of tell you where I'm talking about. And you could also see Stowe. So if you were sitting there last year, you could have seen probably Hamilton and Verstappen's incident. And then on Sunday, as I said, I sat in Village B to be precise. And when we talk about the hospitality or the outside, we need to also talk about activities and food. And I would say they have a ton of food food spots around the circuit and what's it called, cafes, not sort of cafes, but where they hand out coffee and other drinks. So if you're thirsty or need a bit of food, there's a ton of spots around the circuit, and if you want to do your business, you could easily do it because they have the ton of toilets everywhere. And so that was quite nice. And then when you think about merchandise, if you're coming there, oh, I forgot my merch or I wanted to buy, they have a whole store at the Hamilton Street, and in that building they're also going to open a hotel from next year, which might be interesting for the viewers. And also, yeah, in the Hamilton Street, and then around the scattered around the circuit they have a ton of smaller spots to like kiosks sort of, where you could buy clothes from this season, but also they had what they called F1 outlets, where they had all the stuff and other things that basically clearance, which were actually quite nice. But I would say that if you're booking the tickets and you want to buy merch, do it beforehand, because I remember Hamilton put out a neon cap, Silverstone Grand Prix special cap, and around the circuit, if you wanted to buy it, it costs £60, I believe. But if we go to the European store, because that's what I use, it's €45, and €45 is roughly, I would say, less, around between like 37, 38 pounds. So it's not a good deal, but a lot of people who are naive and want to buy something there, they buy it, so they still earn a ton of money. But for you, a tip, don't buy from there. And other things you can do except buy merchandise is also buy food. And I heard from my people I went with who are a bit older than me, and they obviously but they like coffee. They said that the coffee was sort of watered down in most places, and it didn't feel like pure coffee. But I come from Sweden, and here we drink very strong black coffee, so take it as you like. But then on the Sunday we went to Lavazza, yes, Lavazza owned by Latifi, where they had a spot where they made fresh coffee basically every time, where a guy was just putting in the coffee grains and pushing it down and putting it in his machine and everything. So he was doing that all the time, which I think made the coffee good. I'm not fully sure, but I believe that the coffee is depending on the spot, so you have to really look at that. And then also the food it really varies from place to place. I ate burgers at all the days. First one I ate sort of an American style burger close to Village, and there it was quite nice, but they didn't have any toppings. I didn't get cheese in my hamburger, so in my cheeseburger, and it was a bit higgledy-piggledy, I should say. So you have to really think about that. And I got chips, which were quite nice. And on the Saturday, which I actually believe was my best food, they had a little hamburger spot by Woodcut, which had nacho cheese, and I fully recommend that because they put nacho cheese all over the hamburger, and I believe I had it in my chips too, and it was very nice. And then on the Sunday I ate at a place by the American burger place in Village, but this was in my American school bus, and they had cheeseburgers and everything except the chips. How can you have a hamburger or a cheeseburger place without the chips? It's like you're buying a car and it doesn't come with tires or an engine. What's that about? So I got quite disappointed with that. But yeah, you have to look. But they had not just hamburgers, they had Indian style, they had Greek food, they had all over the world things, and all of these mainly were in the village by village and sort of the inner circuit section, where they also had entertainment, where you could try the new F1 game, you could try MotoGP. I believe they had a stand for the new F1 Manager game releasing later this year. If you want me to do a review of it, comment it down below. And they also had sort of an older Aston Martin F1 car on display, and they had a new F1 car. They had the homologated sort of F1's, the F1 Liberty Media concept car for this year, which you see. And I must say, the F1 cars looked super small. I thought they were going to be, I heard, like school bus size, and speaking of this, look super long, but then when you see them, they are actually quite smaller than what you think. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it can be due to racing, but hopefully we'll get better rules in 2026. But when we think about the fun things you can do, as I've stated before, all of them are free. You could also change the tire, I just remembered. And I only saw 2 murals. They had one for Sir Frank Williams, and they had one for Lewis Hamilton. They also have a Ferris wheel, which I don't know if it costs or not. And they also had other minor things around the circuit, which was quite fun. I believe they had a carousel, some bumper cars, or dodgems cars, or how you want to call it. So it was quite fun. But let's get into the main part, what everybody wants to think about. Everybody is thinking about the racing. And let me just say, the cars, it was very fun to watch, because you had the Porsche Super Cup, Formula 3, Formula 2, Formula 1 and W Series. You had 5 different race series. And if you want to see all of them, all sessions, I recommend going with the car, because I couldn't fully see all of them on Friday and Saturday because the bus was leaving. So yeah, but if you don't have a car, the bus you'll have to take. And I must say, the racing was quite fun, because I was sitting at the village, so you saw a lot of, not crashes, but you could see, I remember Porsche Super Cup, they had a few incidents there by the loops, which I could clearly see. A guy's front bumper went off, and then I don't remember a lot of W Series, because when it was the race we said that wood cut, so we couldn't see a lot. Then we had, Formula 2, which we couldn't see a lot, because I don't remember any incidents happening there in village. But then in Formula 1 you have a ton of overtakes, and you could also see Bernd Maylander waiting for Sainz, who was leading. So I recommend that spot. But Club Corner and the last section I would really recommend, because I remember that being a very good spot. But you might think, oh, is there something else going on the track when the racing isn't on? And yes, you had historic F1 cars, which were really fun to see, where you had old, sort of Bugatti style cars from the olden days, where they had the lean when steering, where the steering wheels were this big compared to this, which isn't as big. And then you also had I think a Benetton from the 80s, 90s. You had also older cars which sort of looked like arrows, where they were pointy at the end start and then went out a bit at the end. And you also had, I remember, but during the Saturday, we got to hear, me and the person beside me who has been a Formula 1 fan since like the 80s, heard a screaming V10 or V12 engine. I believe it was a V10. I'm going to show you the video now.
Historic racing champion Jones. Yes, it came out to earlier generation of Formula 1 car, or pre-car. Big that sled, bring it along main roads, that you get
That was super loud. You could hear it start revving up like few hundred meters from you, and you could hear it go whoom past you, which was super fun. And it was, you could also see, as you might seen on the YouTube channel, there are Pirelli hot laps, so we got to see Alpine A110s, I believe they're called. You got to see McLaren 720S maybe, Aston Martin Vantage probably, or DB10, DB11 maybe, and you also got to see Mercedes AMG GTs, maybe the Black Series, I'm not sure. So that was fun. And then if we actually and as I stated before, there wasn't a lot of action happening around the corner I was sitting at. So what do? Well, you can't directly move, but they have TV screens in certain spots, which you can see on the map. So we got to see have a TV screen there, and we got to see all the cars, basically all the action from the TV screen. But the one thing was that, if you remember, Joe and Russell and everybody had a huge crash, and we were at the corner right after. We couldn't see anything, and they had no broadcasting or anything for like an hour. So we were just sitting there waiting to see what happened. Then a few people got to see it on Twitter. We got to see it was a big crash, but thankfully nobody was injured. Now I think I'm done talking about that. So what's my conclusion? Well, I recommend the Silverstone race circuit for people who live in the UK. And what I mean by that is, if you don't have a car, you can't fully see all the sessions and do everything. And if you want to, a diehard fan like me, and want to see everything, you can't fully do that without a car, or you just hire a car. But if you're not from the UK like me, I would still say it was an amazing experience. I really liked the atmosphere, all the cheering when Lewis Hamilton came on, when Christian Horner comes on the TV, everybody boos. It was an amazing experience. Let me just say that I'm against booing. I put on the record, I didn't do it. But everybody was, cheering on. But we also had Ferrari fans in front of us, Verstappen fans behind us. Everybody had like a person they were cheering on, and it wasn't like Spielberg, where if you were a Mercedes fan, everybody would like be sexist and homophobic and things and be against you, and nobody, from my recollection, did burn any merch. So I would say the worst thing which actually happened due to circumstances was the actual inconsistency in track limits and race checking at the circuit. So that's the only thing, but that has nothing to do with the experience. But you got to remember, it was quite expensive. Not Monaco levels, but very expensive. I remember if you want to get like some tickets, it can cost all the way from £100 per person up to like or £200 per person up to over £1,200 per person, and these are for 3-day tickets. And if you want only 1-day tickets, it's a bit cheaper, but remember that the Sunday is always very expensive. So if you want to go to the Silverstone circuit, be prepared to spend a ton of money. But I believe it's worth it depending on how much you spend. So if you're going there and don't have a lot of money, general admission tickets actually really good around the circuit in my opinion. And if you want to splash the cats, sounds also pretty good. But that's all I have to talk to you for today. My next video will be me comparing F1 cars to the most popular class in sim racing, GT3s, and seeing what the big difference is in handling, top speed, time, everything at a chosen circuit. More details will be talked about in the video, but if you want to see that video and are still watching this, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to know when that video is uploaded. And if you like this video, hit the like button and comment your opinion on what other circuits people might want to go to. But until then, I've been Racing Legend, you've been my amazing friends. Thank you for watching. Goodbye!